It's all about the conversations. Arrow.net, ARROE.net. We are unplugged and totally uncut with Danielle J. Lindemann.
I'm great. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. First of all, listeners need to understand, it's true story, what reality says about us. And I just finished up with Inventing Anna, watched every single episode, and I'm going to tell you, I don't know what it says about me other than I am addicted to binge watching.
That's not reality TV though, right? It's
right.
A scripted series. Yeah. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard it's fantastic.
Oh, it's just unbelievable. And the thing about it is, though, is that it must have been 4 years ago. I talked with one of the main people in the movie that they feature, and it's like it just you look at life, you're going, oh my God. It's there's such an investment in reality TV, but at the same time, what is it doing to us?
What is it doing to us, right? I think it shows us kind of the worst of ourselves, right? In some ways, right? It shows us our racism, our classism, our sexism, right? But at the same time, I always make the pitch for reality TV. I think I wouldn't be such a fan if I didn't believe in the kind of power of reality TV to show us kind of a more positive side of ourselves and to affect us in a positive way. So reality TV also shows us, I think something beautiful about ourselves. It shows us how diverse we are, shows us how massively creative we are in so many different areas, right? It shows us, how we change and evolve if you look at the evolution of attitudes on reality TV. So I think reality TV can absolutely reflect the worst of ourselves and impact us for the worst. But I also think that it reflects and has the potential to reflect and impact us positively as well.
I think it gives us confidence and courage to be able to say, and to use our voice instead of going inward like we did in the decades before. Because I remember before Real World, there was talk of reality TV, and we're going, there's no way. We're not going to watch other people with their lives. Oh, my God. Were we ever wrong?
Yeah, I mean, even that first season of Real World, it wasn't, even though that's kind of a cultural touchstone, we all know the first season of Real World, it wasn't wildly popular. And it was on, a cable network, so a lot of people, back when it mattered if you had cable or not, right? Like, a lot of people didn't have MTV at the time. So it wasn't really until Survivor came along, right, that now millions and millions of people tuned in, right? I talked to a lot of people who say, oh, I can tell you exactly where I was sitting, exactly where I was when that final episode of Survivor in 2000 aired, right? That was a cultural juggernaut. So I think that was really the first real inkling of, okay, this is going to be around for a while.
That show was so powerful, that first season, that the radio station that I worked for, we did a promotion around that, and we actually did a Survivor series up on the mountain, and to this day, the girl that won it, I'm still very good friends with, because you build up such a relationship with these people that are struggling, and how they had to live in the conditions that they were in, and you learned from how they made it through the storm.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, I'm sure you have such an interesting perspective on reality TV too, having, interacted with the people who kind of populate these shows. So it's fascinating to me.
I do, and I think that's one of the reasons why it took me forever to fall in love with Modern Family, because they were trying to be a reality show, and I wasn't falling for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's so interesting, the fact that now we have these, pseudo-reality scripted shows. I think that really, Modern Family, but even The Office, which I also teach a class at Lehigh about sociology of The Office, and, Parks and Recreation. But I think that just shows us, what a cultural zeitgeist, what a part of the cultural zeitgeist reality TV is, that it's this format now that's immediately recognizable, right? That you have, someone in the talking head talking about the action that's happening on the screen, right? That's immediately identifiable, and it's sort of become this snake eating its tail at this point, right, where now there's scripted shows that are reality and reality that are scripted, and it's all mashed together.
Do you think that we have turned our news into reality TV only because, I mean, during the race riots and stuff like that, we were all tuning in to see the stores that were getting broke into and things like that. It was like watching a reality show.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think that's new, though, right? I think news, also oftentimes people say, well, reality TV, that's not really real, right?
Right.
And yeah, I mean, of course, it's not 100% real. No, I don't think anyone is saying that it is, right? These shows are kind of curated. They cast particular people. They edit it to look a certain way. But that's also always been true of the news, right? Going back to even, the Vietnam War being on TV, right? Or the 90s, right? The O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh, my God.
Right? So, right. I mean, newscasts have always, picked particular stories to tell, and they've told the stories in certain ways. so there's that curation and that editing happening with the news as well. Nothing that we put out there is ever going to be 100% a mirror of reality, because it can't be. It's always kind of translated through kind of human hands.
Can you imagine if All in the Family would have been a reality show?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't know if we would have been ready for it then.
Right. Well, you're right about that, because there were things that, Archie Bunker covered that we weren't ready for. But boy, he put it out there, though.
Yeah, that's true. And I think reality TV, though, has sort of historically put things out there that scripted TV hasn't necessarily. So even going back to the 1970s, there was a show called An American Family on PBS, which some people say is the first reality show. And they covered all sorts of family issues. They had a gay son who was part of the family. And for there to be, a gay person on TV at that time was quite revolutionary. I mean, and even in the episode of The Real World, even going back to 1992, there was a gay person on that show. There were people talking about racism and sexism in ways that I had never heard before or seen before on TV. So I think reality TV has always, yes, All in the Family also kind of went there too, for sure. But I think reality TV has always kind of gone there to kind of revolutionary places in ways that scripted TV hasn't necessarily.
Do you think that reality TV changed the face of radio as well? Because I mean, from Real World and from and even Survivor, I mean, there are top-notch talent like Sherry Lynch that really got to be themselves on the radio, and they were allowed to be themselves in the form of being real.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe you're a better person to answer that question than I am, in terms of, do you see a kind of change in sort of how, I don't know, people interface with radio after the dawn of reality TV? I guess I'm not interviewing you, so put it back on you.
I think so, and I think that could be the reason why podcasting has taken off as well, because when you sit down and you really study podcasting and listen to what people are saying and doing, it's really no different than the Kardashians.
Yeah, I mean, it really has changed kind of the face of media more broadly, even going to social media, right? Like the rise of the influencers, absolutely connected to reality TV. It's no mistake that a lot of the influencers that you see on Instagram, social media in general, are connected with reality TV, because we kind of form relationships with those people, right, that we see on the screen, because they're ostensibly being themselves, right? And we feel like we know them, and they're called parasocial relationships. We feel like we know them in a way, right, that maybe we don't feel like we know people who are kind of just playing characters. So, right, they're able to kind of sell things to us, or we're able to interact with them in a kind of a more intimate way. You are so spot on when it comes to influencers, because right away I had a flashback of Paul Stanley, lead vocalist of the group Kiss. During the lockdown, he went to social media to show his real life, and I'll never forget him doing one of his live performances. He says, "Look," he says, "you have to understand, this is my house. This is not a studio. It's not going to be perfect." He says, "I'm going to suck, but you're going to see me in reality." And I was like, I respect you more now. Yeah, this idea of authenticity, right? Reality TV really promotes that idea too, right? That you be yourself, be real, right? Like kind of let it all hang out and show people what you're really like. But yeah, I think during the lockdowns, during the early, part of the pandemic, there was a lot of that kind of reality, like little organic reality TV shows happening, especially, in celebrities' lives. I don't know if you're familiar with the Mandy Patinkin videos that his son is posting. I mean, who thought Mandy Patinkin would become like this major, but I was tuning in. It's fantastic. So yeah, I think I don't know if maybe reality TV kind of primed us for that, right? Like, okay, like we know what we're getting into now, and so this is a form of entertainment that we're comfortable with and we want to see more of. I love the way that you have your little tiny tests and things throughout the book, and the way that write down the names of those in the Supreme Court versus the Kardashians. And I when I came across that, I was like going, oh, I Clarence Thomas. I think that's the only one I know. What? That's the only one you know? Well, I'm sure if I was sitting in front of a newspaper, I'd go, okay, of course. But off the top of my head, no, because it's not a part of my everyday. Yeah, I mean, well, some of them have been confirmed recently. Like a lot of the students know Barrett because she's recent, right? But yeah, so this is an exercise that I give in my, intro to sociology class where I ask students to make 2 lists, to write down as many Kardashians as they can name and then as many Supreme Court justices as they can name. And, like you, most of them name more Kardashians than Supreme Court justices. And that's true even if they have never seen the Kardashians, right? Because this is kind of part of the cultural ether now that, most of us, even if we've never seen the show, can name at least like Kim and maybe Courtney or Khloe, right? Or Kendall. So I think that it's certainly not to shame my students or you. I mean, I don't remember all the Supreme Court justices all the time either, but I think it's a really kind of potent symbol of the kind of central role that reality TV kind of now plays within our broader culture.
Is it now through your studies and stuff like that, have we become more visual? Because I mean, if I can identify them if I see them, and then of course one of the things that I do as a daily lesson is I make sure that I do a lot more reading than I used to be instead of watching videos and things like that. And even when I'm writing, I make sure that I have a dictionary near me because I want to physically use that dictionary in my writing so it doesn't make me a lazy writer.
So you're saying, have we become kind of more visually oriented as a culture?
Yeah, because I get really super lazy when I can sit there and speak into my phone and it types it out for me. And so when I have to sit here in front of this computer and type, I'm going, no, this is, come on, get up with the times, dude.
Well, it's interesting because, speaking of just kind of being lazy, I think a lot of us gravitate toward reality TV because we feel like we can kind of watch it in a lazy way, right? We don't really, ostensibly, it's not very cerebral, right? Unless you're a sociologist who's like nitpicking every nuance of it. But it's not very, you can kind of let it like wash over you at the end of a long day. Even Michelle Obama writes about this in her memoir. She says there's nothing more relaxing at the end of a long day than kind of watching these shows about saying yes to the dress, right? So a lot of us, you kind of use it to unwind because we don't really have to engage with it in that way. But at the same time, a lot of us are really engaging with reality TV in very active ways, like voting on the competition shows or like going to social media and then, buying the products that are being hawked on the shows. So it's this interesting kind of tension where on the one hand, it's like we like reality TV because we can just like kind of sit back and let it wash over us. But on the other hand, we are actually very actively engaged with these shows in some ways. In ways, is it the way that it's like what Julia Cameron says in The Artist Way? She says that the reason why magazines are right there at the counter at a grocery store is because you feel bad about Brad Pitt. By the time you get up there to pay for that food, that $500 you just spent, not as bad as Brad Pitt. I'm good. So do we watch reality TV so that we can compare it to our lives going, I don't have as bad as they do? Oh, for sure. I mean, there's so many reasons that we tune into reality TV, which is, part of why it's still this kind of cultural juggernaut, right? There wouldn't be if there weren't so many reasons. But one of those studies show, and it depends on the show, but one of those is this kind of voyeurism, kind of train wreck reason, right? We like to watch a good train wreck because it reminds ourselves that we are not the train wreck. Even though we might be messed up in our own ways, we're not like, oh, those people over there on that show, right, who are doing that thing. So it kind of reaffirms our sense of superiority, absolutely.
The Beatles changed the generations. Do you think that reality TV changed us?
I think reality TV has changed us in a lot of ways. I think it's changed how we kind of respond to TV. I think it changes how we respond to media more broadly, including the news. I think we're more skeptical about news now because we've been so primed from all these decades of watching reality TV and knowing, right, that it's not really real, right? And so now, when we watch the news, we have maybe this kind of skepticism about the news that we didn't always have in the past, that not everything we're seeing on our screens is 100% true or real, whether or not that's accurate. So I think it's sort of primed us to interact with the news and media in different ways. It's certainly changed the face of celebrity and who can be a celebrity, right? These kind of DIY or do-it-yourself celebrities who are just, are celebrities famous for being famous, which has always been the case, though. There have always been people, like royalty, right, who are famous for being famous, not for having any talents, right? But you really see this come out with reality TV. So it's changed the landscape of celebrity. It's changed the landscape of media. And studies show that it does kind of impact how we kind of move and think in the world. It impacts, how we feel about wealth. It impacts how we feel about different social groups, and it even impacts our behavior in some ways. So it's certainly, I would say it's changed the social landscape.
And these celebrities are like family members. I mean, I've always thought JoJo Siwa was like my little sister who is now grown into a woman. I mean, we have followed these people since when they were itty bitty babies.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of kind of media literature on this, and the idea that yes, we form relationships with characters on scripted shows too, right? Absolutely, right? Like, am I more of a Miranda or am I more of a Bethany? Not a Bethany, more of a Miranda or more of of Samantha, right? No, sadly, it's a Miranda, right? But at the same time, there's sort of this idea that with reality TV, it's even more intimate. These relationships that you form, these parasocial relationships, because you're connecting with someone who's ostensibly being themselves, right? Whether or not there's any kind of real performance going on, they're being themselves. So you connect with Kim Kardashian, who's acting as Kim Kardashian, and then there's this multi-platform approach where then you can go follow her on social media. You can buy her products, you can buy the doll, you can buy the video games, you can follow her radio tour if she's doing a radio tour, right? So you can connect with. There's so many different points of connection that we have now. We really have access to these stars in a new way.
And look at all the housewives, like Housewives of Jersey, that were in reality away from those cameras. They still got in trouble, and some of them did some jail time. I mean, it's just, and it's like, man, put a camera in there. I want to watch that too.
I know. I think they did a special, but yes, no, the reality. I know. I was just talking about this actually. The fact that so many reality stars end up in jail and why that is. I think it seems like a lot of it's for tax-related purposes. Maybe they just don't know how to properly report their reality TV income. It's fascinating.
Wow. Is there a website where people can go to learn from you? Because, I mean, this book is just, to me, you're just scratching the surface. There's so much to what you are sharing with us right now.
Oh, there's so much. Well, they can go to my personal website, www.daniellelindeman.com, and they can read, all aspects of my work and all the press that's been done about my work. But I'd also direct them to the book as well, even though I agree there's so much more to unpack there than can be encapsulated in a single book.
Absolutely. You got to come back to the show anytime in the future, Danielle. The door is always going to be open for you.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
You too. Bye.